So hi and welcome to another video on the Logitech here. We're going to be doing some glide tests with the Hyperglide skates here that I've managed to get hold of, which are rare, very hard to get, like hen's teeth. They just don't exist. I'll put some links in the description of where I've picked these up from and also potentially where you could get them from, but there is a bit of a waiting list on some of these sites. So we've been running these glide tests like we have done for the core pads, the hotlines, the tiger pads that we've done on the G Pro Wireless. Again, I'll put all the links to everything in the description. I'm going to be running it on these baseline pads, which is the Logitech G640, the QCK Plus here, the MP510 from Courier, and the GSR SE Divina here from ZOWIE. Now there are other pads and I've got a load here. You guys have put loads of recommendations on from my website, which is beardedbob.com. There's also a voting system there that you've been working on. And I've got a lot more pads like the Scarab, I've got the other ZOWIE products, I've got Glorious is here to measure, but the main ones that I use for the testing here for these glide tests are just these four to give us a bit of consistency. As you know, I'm going to show you charts as we go through these pads, show you how they're improving or how they're not improving, how they compare against stock skates or not. One thing to note is that I have retaken some tests on the stock skates for the G Pro Wireless. I bought a brand new G Pro Wireless. One, I want to see whether the texture's changed to the original one. This is an original one. This was 1824 and I've got a 1914 now, I think. And there's some rumors around there coating on it to see if it's changed. So I'm going to do some tests on that, which also allows me to redo the stock skate test because we've changed the test from when I started this out a long time ago now. What this is going to allow us to do is to see which pads are faster and slower. I will be doing a video now as I've got a lot of tests here for these feet, like say Hyperglides Tigers, showing a video of all these compared together to give people an idea of which ones are good, and we'll go through all those charts as well, so keep your eye out for that. So if you're not familiar with my videos, these glide tests we use something called a force gauge meter. This is what this is. This tests the force of the mouse. That tests the force required to push the mouse in grams across the pad. That's what we're going to use. We've got scales here as well, so we can measure the weight of the skates to see if they increase in weight or not. It will be probably less than a gram if it does anyway. What some people like to know. We've also got a caliper here for measuring the thickness, which can make a difference for liftoff. A hairdryer to take the skates off. Also, a lot of you are saying not to use a knife, so I've got this plastic tool here that should allow us to take the skates off without damaging them now. So we're going to install the pads. If you want to get past that, I'll put a link in the description to where the tests begin, because you probably understand all these tests already if you've been watching me and you've seen me take skates off before. If you haven't, watch this part of the video because it'll show you how to change the skates without damaging them. It'll also tell you how my measurements work, like NSW, NFW, RSW, and NFW. And let's see how they perform. So if you're not familiar how we take the measurements here across the pad, we take 4 measurements. We take an NSW, which is a normal rotated pad, sideways. We take an NFW, which is normal forwards. We then rotate the pad, and we take an RSW measurement, which is rotated sideways, and we take an RFW, which is rotated forwards. Now when the pad's in its normal rotation, the 2 measurements that you want to focus on, and we do that in the averages here on these charts that I'll show you, is you want to look at the NFW and the RSW, so normal forward and rotated sideways. So the standard skates here for the Logitech, so I've retaken these measurements here to give us the other measurements that I've not been able to take when I first did it. And this gives us a standard average that we're interested in of 27 grams here. If we then compare this to the Hyperglides, you can see the Hyperglides here of an average of 26 grams, which gives it about a gram difference. So they are very similar here to the Logitech stock skates, which is kind of what we've been seeing in some of the tests here that I've been performing anyway. So the QCK Plus here, the stock skates came in with 25 grams average. When we take a look compared to the Hyperglides, again, the Hyperglides here have come with an average of 25 grams, so they are very similar here. And then if we take a look on the G640 and the QCK here on the same page, you can see that the QCK and G640 are about a gram difference here. There's a little difference really in it. That could just be down to pure measurement here. You're not going to see much difference in the glide. One thing to also note is the G640 is a worn pad here. I've been using this daily, so it could be slightly quicker. I'm thinking about maybe swapping it out for a new one to give it a bit more of a fair test, because the other pads here are new and only used for these tests. So running the stock skates across the MP510 here, we can see they come in with an average of 23. If we then take a look at the Hyperglides, they are a little bit quicker here, 2 grams less with an average of 21. So certainly a little bit of an improvement, but still going to be difficult to feel. If we then take a look across the G640, the QCK and the MP510 here, the MP510, left side being fastest, right side being slowest. The MP510 here is certainly the quicker pad with an average of 23 grams for stock, and an average of 21 grams here if you're running Hyperglides, which is quite a difference considering the 640 has an average of 26 grams for the Hyperglides and the QCK has 25. So a few grams difference there. It's certainly going to have a nicer glide on the MP510, but we know this is a quick pad anyway. So if we then take a look at the GSR and we take a look at the Hyperglides and the standard gates here, there's quite a difference here. This is something that I didn't really expect, and that's the standard ones are 28 grams, but the Hyperglides on the ZOWIE here, GSR, are 22 grams, which is quite quick here, the average. Surprisingly, because the reason I'm surprised is, and you know, is because we've seen a lot of tests where the GSR tends to be the slower pad. So it's interesting to see that the ZOWIE here is quicker with Hyperglides, because on all of the pad tests we've done, it's generally one of the slower ones with the G640. You can see here quite a difference between the ZOWIE and the, say, QCK or the 640. It's starting to be similar pace to the MP510, which we know is a quick pad. You'll also see here in this bonus chart here that I've taken some measurements with the ring taken off. And you can see here that you get around a gram or 2 less friction across all the pads here, apart from one of them. But in general, it looks like the ring does create a little bit more drag. And when it's taken off, it actually helps it glide maybe a little bit faster. We'll have to try that on a few more mice and a few more tests to really get that to be confirmed. So what this does is it backs up the theory that it is definitely a combination of your pad and your skates and your mouse. It's not just one thing that's going to make it quicker. You can get different results across different pads here, as we're seeing in all these tests we're doing. We'll probably like to see that more in the next video I'm going to do, which is going to be more around the fastest and slowest pads for the G Pro Wireless, which I'm going to do. And we're going to compare all these stats in one go. So I hope you like this video, I hope you like these tests, I hope you like the way I'm presenting this now. Feel free to give me any feedback in the comments. Constructive is always appreciated. Not just, it's not very good, Bob, what you're doing. So give me some constructive feedback and I'll see you again in the next video. Catch you later. Bye-bye. What you're doing. So give me some constructive feedback and I'll see you again in the next video. Catch you later. Bye-bye.